Good afternoon, I'm Kristen Achkate. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for joining us. We begin in Manitoba, where a second set of human remains found in late February at a Winnipeg-area landfill have officially been identified as belonging to 26-year-old Marcedes Myran. Myran was one of two First Nations women whose bodies were believed to have been disposed of in the Prairie Green landfill in spring of 2022. She and Morgan Harris, whose remains were found and identified earlier this month, were the victims of a convicted serial killer who targeted Indigenous women. APTN's Sav Jonza reports.
The remains of Marcedes Myran have been officially identified after being found in late February in the Prairie Green landfill north of Winnipeg. Myran and Morgan Harris, whose remains were identified in early March, can now be properly put to rest by loved ones almost 3 years since they disappeared.
Marcedes Myran and Morgan Harris are coming home. This is what we set out to do. I don't know if many of us knew the odds of success. I certainly was always trying to keep a realistic perspective, but it turns out bringing them home was within our grasp.
Myran, 26, and Harris, 39, were two of four confirmed victims of a convicted Winnipeg serial killer. Myran and Harris were both members of Long Plain First Nation. Their murders took place between March and May 2022. The remains of another victim, Rebecca Contois, were found in June 2022 in the Brady Road landfill south of Winnipeg. The remains of a fourth, yet-to-be-identified victim, named by the Indigenous community as Marcedes Myran, or Buffalo Woman, have still not been found. It took roughly 2 years for the landfill search to begin after Winnipeg Police Services said they believed Harris and Myran's remains were at the site in December 2022. However, the Winnipeg Police Services refused to enact a search, and the previous provincial government campaigned against the effort, both citing health concerns related to asbestos. Throughout that time, the women's families and their community endlessly advocated for the search.
Until we get her home, we'll be fighting to bring her home. Like I said, even a piece of her would be good. We'll have a piece of her at home at least.
We're not asking, we are telling you that this needs to be done. You will search the landfill, and if you will not, you will hand me the shovel and you will hand me the hazmat suits myself, and our community will go in there and retrieve our woman.
It took about 3 months for the two women to be found from the time the physical search began in December 2024. Morgan Harris's daughter Elle says the pain of waiting and advocating was unnecessary for the families. She took to Facebook to share her thoughts on Myran being found. There was absolutely no need for all this trauma that was induced, for all the exhaustion, for all the constant fighting and pleading to bring my mother and Marcedes home. We did not have to endure all this pain if they just listened to us in the first place instead of tearing us down every step and every second of the way. Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew says the search will continue and says remains and other things that are significant are continuing to be found. Kinew hopes the findings bring unity to a province somewhat divided on the search.
And I hope now, regardless of how you felt over the course of this thing, I hope we can all just agree it's good that we're able to provide closure to these families so that they can move forward in a good way. And now the rest of the province, neighbors included, ought to be able to move forward together.
Sav Jonza, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Now to a breaking story in Quebec. We've just learned that Quebec's provincial police raided some homes in Kanesatake located just west of Montreal. Authorities say they were looking for illicit weapons. Nouvelles Nationale host reporter Kim Sullivan was on the scene this morning. Kim, what can you tell us?
Police officers of the Integrated Firearms Trafficking Team Montreal, coordinated by La Sûreté du Québec, conducted a police raid this morning in Kanesatake.
When the place was secured and people were arrested, we called immediately the band council plus the mayors of Oka and Saint Placide to let them know what's going on and why we were there.
Police got a tip from the public in summer 2024 and this morning showed up at 1288, 1290 Saint Philomene in Ganasatake, where 2 vehicles as well as these 2 residences were searched.
Regarding armed trafficking, drugs, and also stolen vehicles. We have lots of policemen on the ground. We arrested 3 men and 2 women.
Operations have gone smoothly so far. Charges will be laid this afternoon virtually from the Saint-Jérôme Courthouse. Kim Sullivan, APTN National News, Mohawk Territory of Ganasatake.
Saskatchewan RCMP are warning residents in Regina about a man who has a high risk of reoffending sexually or violently. He was released from prison today after serving the entirety of his sentence. RCMP say 27-year-old Jared Charles has a criminal history of violent sexual offenses and kidnapping children. Charles completed incarceration programs to address risk factors. However, investigators say the programming was not sufficient, and Charles indicated that he is unable to abide by conditions. Charles must now live at an approved residence in Regina, have no contact with youth under 16, and cannot use a computer to message youth, among other conditions. Charles grew up in numerous foster homes throughout his youth. He was previously charged for abducting an 8-year-old girl from Prince Albert and sexually assaulting her in a wooded area. Police warn the public not to carry out unlawful or harmful acts against Charles. A Saskatoon lawyer in Saskatchewan has been placed on interim suspension and will not be allowed to practice law until an investigation concludes. On March 11th, the Law Society of Saskatchewan announced they are suspending Dwayne Stonechild, alleging he improperly collected lawyer fees for the federal Indian Day School lawsuits without court authorization and without court approval. The Law Society also deemed Stonechild an immediate risk to the public if he continued to practice law while an investigation is ongoing. APTN News attempted to contact Stonechild but did not hear back before broadcast time. The allegations have yet to be proven in court following an investigation. A mother from Norway House Cree Nation in Manitoba was left traumatized after staff at the Thompson General Hospital allegedly told her that her baby was not breathing, which turned out to be untrue. Now, her family and advocates are calling for accountability from the hospital and an end to First Nation-specific racial discrimination in the healthcare system. APTN Sierra Bettens has more.
It was supposed to be a routine checkup, but it turned into a nightmare for 18-year-old mother-to-be, Caitlin Albert, who says she was incorrectly told her baby had stopped breathing.
No mother should ever be made to feel like a burden or abused just for asking for help. No family should have to grieve for a child who is still alive because of racism and neglect. No Indigenous woman should have to fight to be treated with respect in a hospital.
On February 4th, Albert and her partner, Ethan Coates, went to the Thompson General Hospital for an appointment. However, during the visit, the family alleges the physician and ultrasound technician verbally abused the couple, acted with physical aggression, and would not let Ethan in the room. After returning home, Albert received a call from the hospital and was allegedly told their baby wasn't breathing.
When I got a call from my daughter, she was heartbroken and in shock. She told me, "Mom, they said my baby isn't breathing." I cannot describe the pain I felt.
After returning to the hospital, the couple learned the baby was alive, but the family says the error caused irreversible harm. Following the incident, the family connected with Dr. Barry Lavalley, the CEO of Kiwetinook Inanu Minoyawan, a health organization advocating for Northern First Nations. On Friday, the organization held a press conference in Winnipeg to call for accountability and sound the alarm on racial discrimination.
This is not just, I need an apology letter. This requires our community to invest a lot of time and think about the future of that baby. Because we need leaders.
Norway House Cree Nation councillor Dion Clark called on the province's health minister and the Northern Health Region to take action and investigate the incident.
We need to see an end to this type of racism that happens in our hospitals, our healthcare systems. We need to see change in these systems. But too many times our people have been traumatized. They're afraid to enter these facilities because they're scared to be mistreated.
To end First Nation-specific discrimination in healthcare, Lavalley says First Nation people must lead and deliver that care in northern communities.
Give us the resources and money and we'll take over. Because we're not going to waste the last 30 years around cultural competency, cultural safety, all those kinds of things. It doesn't work. This is structural violence against First Nations people.
APTN reached out to the Northern Health Region and Manitoba's health minister for comment. A spokesperson from the Northern Health Region said they're unable to discuss specific patient situations due to the Personal Health Information Act. In a statement sent to APTN, Manitoba Health Minister Uzoma Asagwara said they, quote, take this issue very seriously, unquote, and that they've asked Northern Health Region to reach out through patient experience to learn from the incident and prevent it from happening again. Now a mother to a healthy baby, Albert hopes sharing her story will drive change.
This isn't just about me. It's about every Indigenous mother who has been ignored, disrespected, or treated unfairly. This has to stop. We deserve care. We deserve to be safe. We deserve respect. I'm speaking out because no one should ever have to go through this again.
Sierra Buttons, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Does not care at all.
Last week, the Edmonton Police Service announced that there would be no charges in the death of a 13-year-old Eric Omisu. The youth was fatally stabbed at an Edmonton transit station on February 5th. In a release, Edmonton police state Omisu was part of a group of 4 youths and an 18-year-old. They had an altercation with a man and a woman in their 30s. Omisu was stabbed during the altercation. Edmonton police say there would be no charges as the man and woman were acting in self-defense. The other 3 youth and the 18-year-old face several charges, including multiple counts of assault and possession of a weapon dangerous to the public. Omisu's family said they will not stop fighting for justice for Eric and are hoping anyone who knows more about the incident to come forward. A deadly shooting in the Northwest Territories has claimed the life of 1 person and has injured 2 others. RCMP was called to a residence in the Daicho community of Fort Providence on March 15th at around 12:40 a.m. local time. 1 person was reported dead at the scene while 2 others were taken to the local healthcare center. No arrests have been made at this time, with the RCMP determining that the shooting is linked to the illicit drug trade in the community. RCMP believe that the suspect has fled the community and may have left the territory. The Northwest Territories RCMP's Major Crimes Unit has been deployed and will investigate alongside the Office of the Chief Coroner. Any tips are to be directed to the Fort Providence RCMP by phone at 867-699-1111 or online through Crime Stoppers. With Justin Trudeau no longer Prime Minister, we'll look back at one of his promises to First Nations. That story will return in about 3 minutes. Welcome back. Despite the ongoing trade war between the United States and Canada, the Alaska State Legislature is working to strengthen its relationship with what lawmakers say is its only neighbor. A joint resolution recognizing and honoring Alaska's relationship with Canada was passed at the committee level on Friday. The resolution has support from both Republicans and Democrats. It notes Alaska and Canada's interconnected economies, shared border, and long-standing trade relationship, among other things. It also states more than 20,000 jobs in Alaska are dependent on trade and investment in Canada. The resolution opposes restrictive trade measures and calls for both countries to work together. Yukon Premier Ranj Pillai testified at the committee hearing on Friday.
As it says in this joint resolution, the alliance between Alaska and Canada is about many more years of cooperation, friendship, trade, tourism, cultural exchange, and goodwill. So I urge the Alaskan legislature to send a strong message to Washington by passing the joint resolution and standing up for the Alaskan jobs, Alaskan workers, and Alaskan businesses that depend on trade with Canada.
The resolution requires a second reading and debate. While resolutions express the opinion of the legislature, they do not have the force of law. With Justin Trudeau no longer Prime Minister, First Nations are calling on the new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, to fulfill Trudeau's promise of getting clean drinking water in all First Nation communities. CTV's Alex Karpa reports.
Access to clean drinking water is something most Canadians don't even think twice about, but in some First Nations communities, it's an everyday issue.
There's a lot of issues that our people face in our First Nations that are still being neglected.
Shamattawa First Nation in northern Manitoba has been under a boil water advisory since 2018. The remote community filed a lawsuit against the federal government last fall over the issue of clean drinking water. In its defense, Ottawa argued Canada has no legal obligation to provide First Nations with clean drinking water.
But can't help feeling frustrated.
Back in 2015, Justin Trudeau promised to end boil water advisories in First Nations communities. Nearly a decade later, 147 water advisories have been lifted, but federal data shows there still remain 35 long-term drinking water advisories across 33 reserves in Canada.
That is technically a broken promise because the former Prime Minister promised to get that done within 5 years.
Mark Carney's new pared-down cabinet still includes an Indigenous Services Minister, but Foreign Affairs and Trade are dominating political conversations as Canada deals with the U.S. But advocates point out there still remains several promises the Liberal Party made to Indigenous peoples in Canada that haven't been dealt with.
We can uphold the rights of people around the globe and be a good global citizen, and also discharge our responsibilities at home.
As the new Carney government settles in, Grand Chief Settee says it's imperative that Indigenous issues are not forgotten.
We need the government to continue to work with us, not abandon these issues every time something happens globally.
There are still 24 First Nation communities in Ontario under long-term boil water advisories. Manitoba and Saskatchewan each have 5, and Newfoundland and Labrador has 1 remaining community. Alex Karpa, CTV News, Winnipeg.
Singer-songwriter Jessa Sky is very transparent about her struggles with addiction and mental health. Tonight on Face to Face with Dennis Ward, she discusses her triumph and tragedies and the origins behind her music career.
You know, in 2021, I wasn't being honest with myself or the people around me. I had no idea who I was. I was struggling with addiction. I had tried to get sober since I was 19. My parents are, sober. My dad's actually going to be 38 years here in a few days. And I knew alcohol was a problem, but I didn't know that I was the problem. So when I released on my own, I was struggling with addiction. But now that I had almost 2 years, and so now that I know who I am, I kind of just, as long as I stay authentic to myself, like I'm not doing anything wrong. If I'm being something I'm not, then I get usually really anxious and scared and kind of in my head, but I'm really not that important, and I just want to help people, and that's what I try to tell myself.
Definitely check that out this evening. We now want to tell you about this week's web poll question. Over on our website, we ask, with promises to eliminate federal carbon pricing, should it be replaced? Your answers are yes, no, or unsure. Go to our website at www.aptnnews.ca/polls to cast your ballot. Indigenous business leaders recently gathered in Regina. That story when we come back in less than 3 minutes. Starting on the east, Charlottetown 0 and rain, Halifax sun and 6. Happy Valley, Goose Bay -5, Cartwright -6. Saguenay -3, Quebec City 0. Ottawa 4, Sarnia 5. Sioux Lookout -5, Thunder Bay 0. Puckatawagan -10, The Paw -7. Winnipeg -4, Brandon -7. Regina -12, Saskatoon -6. La Ronge -14, Uranium City -28. Sunny in Peace River at 4, Fort McMurray 3. Lethbridge 8, Medicine Hat same temperature. Tofino 8, Vancouver 8 and rain. Sandspit 7, Smithers 3. Old Crow -23, Rock River -24. Norman Wells -20, Wrigley -17. Tuktoyaktuk -28, Paulatuk -24. Baker Lake -17, Whale Cove -18. And Resolute -20, Iqaluit -14. Thanks for staying with us. In 2023, the City of Regina put a policy in place to stimulate Indigenous entrepreneurship and provide Indigenous businesses more opportunities to participate in the economy. Recently, the city held an event gathering Indigenous businesses and municipal departments all in one room. CTV's Mick Favel reports.
Improving economic development and lifting Indigenous businesses is the focus of the day for a better tomorrow. Indigenous vendors and City of Regina leaders gathered for a first-of-its-kind event to meet each other and to learn about the city's needs and wants at the inaugural Indigenous Procurement Business Gathering.
It's a new process to everybody, right? And it's great to see the City of Regina taking some inclusion and some initiative in creating these open dialogues and information sessions, inviting members of the public out to participate in actively changing the way the foundation is laid out for the future.
In 2023, the City of Regina voted unanimously in creating an Indigenous Procurement Policy and Advisory Committee, with the goal of one day awarding 20% of city contracts to Indigenous businesses. The committee requested the event with the hope of getting the word out on the work currently happening.
We've made some significant impacts since the policy's been implemented. We just want to see that to continue to grow, engage, grow capacity in the community, connect with vendors. Together, I think that we can just move and hit that goal in the next few years. It would be wonderful.
Terry Bird from George Gordon Developments Limited was a keynote speaker at the gathering. He says the policy is a positive step in creating opportunities for everyone. He hopes attendees walk away knowing Indigenous peoples are eager to do business and be a part of the economy.
Today they're loud and proud, and First Nations are here to do business with, and same with Métis people. And we just got to find the opportunity for them to get involved with the major organizations, the City of Regina or resource developments here in Saskatchewan, even across Canada.
The Indigenous Procurement Advisory Committee is a fluid membership. If there are vendors or community members who would like to take part, it's easy to join.
If you're a vendor and wanting to get involved with city procurement and you just want to showcase what you can do for us or how you might fit into city operations, definitely reach out and we can make some time to meet with you and discuss opportunities.
The City of Regina has generated a verified Indigenous vendor list, which includes more than 200 entries. 14 of those have been awarded municipal contracts.
And that's your daytime newscast for this Tuesday, March 18th. Dennis Ward is back for your evening newscast in a few hours. Make sure to join us then. From all of us at APTN National News Daytime, hi miigwech, masicho kwana. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again. Ekse.